Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Sin Privilegios podcast. My name is Adriel Dominguez, and I'm here with my special guest today. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Frida Hernandez Perez. I'm a third year at PLU, and I'm excited to be here.
You're a third year?
I am.
Girl, I thought you were graduating already.
No, I'm doing my capstone early just because my professor was like leaving next year. She's not going to be here next year. She's on sabbatical. So she asked me to at least start it while she was still here.
What? So we're
Yeah.
graduating together?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Girl, I thought you were leaving me. I was like,
No, I
damn.
still have 2 other capstones to do next year. I'm triple majoring. I got nothing better to do.
Wow, I'm so shocked.
I'm like so stressed out all the time, but
Oh,
everybody's like, "Oh
girl.
my gosh!" And I'm like, I had nothing better to do my first year, so I just kept adding stuff on.
Okay, so
Like-
you got to tell us your three majors though.
Okay, so I started with a major in political science because I wanted to be a lawyer, so I knew like doesn't matter what kind of field, just as long as it was in law, right?
Mhm.
And then my advisor gave me a class in Spanish for heritage speakers.
Okay.
And so then I was like, oh, I really like this, so I'm going to minor in it. And she's like, well, you already speak Spanish, so you skip through a lot of the requirements. You can just go into a major.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, fun. And then I picked up a minor in pre-law, and then I had to take a required class, an FYEP,
Mm-hmm.
that was assigned to me. I also didn't pick that. I was like, oh, I don't want to take these classes. And then I was like, oh my gosh, they're awesome. Let me like major in them. And so I started with political science and with a minor in Hispanic studies and another minor in pre-law. And then I upgraded the minor in Hispanic studies to a major. And then
Okay.
I picked up a global studies minor and turned it into a major. So political science, Hispanic studies, and global studies with a minor in pre-law.
Oh, snap!
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't have
snap!
nothing better to do.
Oh, snap! I'm so impressed right
Yeah,
now.
thank you.
Wait, so like, how's global studies for you? Because right now I'm taking global development, and I feel like the professor is also like a hard grader.
She is. That's the one that I had the first time, but she's also the one that like made me really interested in global studies.
Yeah.
She's the one who talked to me about majoring in it. She was like, you can
Really?
minor in it, and then I was like, yeah. And then I studied away, and she's like, you got most of your requirements done. You could upgrade it to a major, and I was like, hey, if it fits, it fits. And I mean, I still have a lot of free time next year. Only have to take 6 classes. I'm taking my J term off. I'm only taking 2 classes in the spring.
Frida is doing one of her capstones, and yeah, she's gonna educate me today. So I'm ready
Yeah.
to hear her out. And
So, for those of you that don't know, a capstone is like a senior project, and it depends on your discipline: political science, history, pottery. Obviously, a political science senior project is not going to be the same as like an art senior project. Mine consists of presenting at a research symposium and writing a paper. And you have like this overarching research question, your thesis, your hypothesis, and what you think you're going to find in your research, right? So my question is, how are Latinos in the United States responding to how are Latinos in the United States responding to this inflammatory anti-immigration political environment? And I say it's enacted by the Trump administration's second term in office. I think there's an interesting distinction between his first term and his second term because and it's very common for presidents who get that second term. In their first term, they're very kind of people pleasing. Like, yes, Trump was very inflammatory, very saying crazy things straight out of his butt, but when the presidents are in their second term, there's not much they could stand to lose. In their first term, they kind of just they're like, "Oh, I need a people please just so I can get reelected," you know? And once you get reelected, it's not like you're going to get elected for a third term, so that you don't really have anything to lose, especially these presidents who have their own organizations and companies. Like, they have their own source of revenue. At this point, being president is just like a side hustle.
especially for Trump.
Especially for Trump. He
Yeah.
has plenty of things going
Oh,
on with
yeah.
with his gold sneakers, with his MAGA movement, with his, his Trump Bibles. Have you seen those Trump Bibles?
Oh no!
Like,
I already feel anger bubbling
yeah,
up in.
it's.
I mean, this
Do you
man has
wanna talk-
hotels.
Do you want to talk about that photo that you talked about in class?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So had you known about it?
I saw it before, and
Oh my
you were like
gosh.
some kind of picture, and I was like, he has another one, and you were like, no, it
Okay.
was the first one.
This is what happened. I'm just like trying to brain rot before class. I'm trying to brain rot. And then like honestly, the news has been like so depressing. I really do try to avoid it, which is not good because like literally this is what I do. But it gets to a point where it's just like, okay, that's enough. So anyways, I really don't. Apparently this is old news, but to me it was new news, okay guys? I'm scrolling on TikTok and I saw a video of this guy like he was mad.
Mhm.
And he's like, "Did you guys see like what he posted?" Da 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 da. And I like look up the image because I hadn't seen it. It's AI generated,
It is, yeah.
and it's basically like Trump is presenting himself in the picture as Jesus, and he's like saving or like healing people, and then there's like angels in the back. It looks like if it were to be like a Jesus painting.
And I think what
Yeah.
like really adds salt to the wound is the fact that he posted it himself. It wasn't like, oh, one of my interns accidentally posted that because he thought it would be funny. He posted it himself, and when he received backlash, he was talking about. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought I looked like a member of the Red Cross, because I was healing people.
I saw the comment.
Oh my goodness! I was like, you just want to make it worse. He said that he felt like he was looking like a Red Cross helper. But people were like, well, bro, I don't know if you know this, but people who are in the Red Cross aren't like, don't have halos behind them. And he was wearing like those, like Jesus is very often depicted in this like white robe with like a red stole,
Yes.
right? So from what point are we?
We were talking about the Jesus painting.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know when I'm having technical difficulties.
I'm just here.
So I should just here watching me crash out, bro. I don't know when to stop recording, but we were talking about Trump being depicting himself as Jesus. And then you were saying Red Cross.
He said that he didn't apologize. I made the mistake of saying, oh, I'm sorry.
He apologized.
He did not apologize. He said, I don't know what y'all are talking about. That's me as like pretending I'm like from the Red Cross, because the Red Cross is like healing. But he's like, oh, see, I'm putting my hands on people because I'm a healer, like the people in the Red Cross. But the outfit that he's wearing is not like a nurse's uniform. It's a white robe with a red stole, and that's very historically accurate to how Jesus is portrayed more often than not, So it's a very clear correlation, and there's like the golden halo behind him, and
the
his
angels
hands are glowing.
That's so disrespectful.
It is. Like, as somebody who is religious, I don't know if you are, but as somebody who's religious, it was very like, I already don't like him.
No, you're already on thin ice, bro.
Every time you think, oh, he cannot go lower,
he does.
finds a way to go lower, and you're just like, oh my, like what do you do? Like, you're watching this train wreck and it just keeps running over people, and you're just like, what do you do? What can you do? It's just very frustrating.
I mean, yeah, I get that. I know it's so embarrassing too. Like, I was abroad while his like presidency.
Yeah.
And like like a few months ago, right? And everybody was like, so like, why did y'all vote for him? I'm like, hold up. Who's y'all? Because I did not. I was like, do not look at me sideways.
Yeah.
And they're like, but like, why did I'm like, girl, I don't know. I didn't vote for him.
I promise you I did not vote for that. I
That
did not
was
vote for
not
any of
me.
this. Even the people who did vote for Trump did not vote for this kind of economy, for this kind of pedophile.
Okay, but even then, I'm still mad about that because I'm like, y'all know damn well what type of person he was.
Right. If he was bad in his first term, do you think he's going to be like, I've had a change of heart, I found God, I'm a better person? Like,
he ain't even.
I never thought he would ever be better.
I feel like I'm being rage baited right now.
Just like, you're being rage baited. What if Trump is like a social experiment and he's like, this is how far you guys can be pushed. Wake up. What if he's a social experiment and he's like, you see, guys, I can be a pedophile, I can be a rapist, I can be a horrible, horrible, horrible person who like steals from people, deports people, is a horrible person, and you guys did nothing.
And y'all let us get away with it.
Wake up, America. And then we're all just like, damn, get him out of office though.
And hasn't he been like inaugurated like hella times? Not inaugurated. What the hell am I talking about?
They started the impeachment process.
Yeah.
They're starting the impeachment process again. Make sure you guys go vote, because not for the impeachment itself, but for your representatives who can impeach him.
If
and
they actually do anything.
if they ever do. Last year, we just ran out of time. He got out of office before we could ever impeach him, because I think if he gets impeached his first term, he can't run again for a second term. Because if
Mhm.
you get kicked out of the office, you can't come back in,
Mhm.
you know?
Anyways, that was a whole tangent.
Yeah,
We
back away from the
we
whole
both
Jesus
clearly
image.
hate that man.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But for my capstone, it's like I'm asking how, like, and I was going at first I was going for policies, like specific Senate bills or House bills, but I went more broadly towards like socially, how are Latinos resisting? And my three main points are that there's an increase in protests,
Mhm.
specifically tailored towards anti-ICE, pro-immigration, pro-human rights, very specific to that. There's some protests that are just general anti-Trump ones, and within those anti-Trump, like the No Kings protest movement, there were subcategories of like, we don't like Trump because of this, this, and this,
Mhm.
and many of them included those like anti-ICE, pro-immigrant rights situations. So I said, there's an increase in protests. I think I was working on it today, and the Princeton University Bridging Divides Initiative or something like that
Mhm.
has research on it, and they said that the protest in March of 2025 was less than 20 in a week. That was like the highest point in March in 1 week. And in March of 2025, I think it reached just under 260 protests in 1 week against ICE, against
Mhm.
Trump, and pro immigration.
Mhm.
So the support is there. I think what people struggle with is having facts behind the protest, because it's very easy to get a group of people and express your grievances. But let's say that protest gets you to the steps of the White House and they open the doors and say, okay, we see your group of people. What do you want us to do? I
Mhm.
think a lot of people have a disconnect with, like, they complain and they don't actually have solutions, you
Mhm.
know? It's like when somebody has a good idea and you shoot it down, you're like, "I don't like it." And they're like, "Okay, what do you suggest?" You
Mhm.
know? I think a lot of people just they don't have the facts to back it up, you know? But another point that I had was, grassroots organizations. I think they have been playing an amazing role since around the pandemic. This was when people couldn't go out to buy groceries, so they had to go in their cars, and there were organizations that would have like grocery boxes
Mhm.
of like necessities, like canned goods, dry goods, anything. Sometimes they had vegetables. I know that I had to go to those with my mom sometimes during the pandemic, and we would always say, "Oh, they gave us fresh fruit this time." You know, it was like a privilege, because not only were prices really high, but also in the pandemic, you couldn't go anywhere. So you didn't really have a choice into what you could have access to.
Mhm.
But these grassroots organizations, they're really important because during these ICE raids, they've started these things called the ICE task forces. Have you heard of those? So this is when it's not like an official job, it's just communities coming together and saying, like, for example, I'm a US citizen, and if I know that I have a high population of undocumented people in my area and I see ICE activity, you report it. There's a
Mm.
hotline and it sends out a signal to the people in your community to say,
Mhm.
stay indoors, or if you can, like, if you are not at risk of being deported or detained, then you can go there and ensure that they don't take anybody, you
Mhm.
know? And if they are taking somebody, make sure you're recording and that you are not interfering, things like that. These task forces really have helped people avoid these areas. I know there's a task force at a church near my house, and my mom was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the pharmacy," and I saw a text message from the church, and they were like, "Hey, ICE activity in this street and that street." That's exactly where my mom was going, and I cannot imagine what would have happened if I had not received that text and if I had not picked up the phone and called my mom in that immediate moment. I wasn't even there. I
Mhm.
live 45 minutes away from campus, so
Mhm.
I got that alert from way over here, and I still told her, and I think those ice watches are so important because it's community helping community. This is not like these grassroots organizations, they're started by real people. This is not a big conglomerate that's benefiting off of us. It's a neighbor helping a neighbor,
Mhm.
you know? And the third point is voter mobilization. Um, I separate into three categories, which is voter education, registration, and actually voting. Uh, the voter education is just learning what the voting process is, who's running, what other elections there are, not just the big presidential one that gets announced more than any of the other ones. A lot of people don't know that we're having smaller elections, and arguably those smaller elections impact our daily lives a lot more than the presidential election.
Mhm.
You are electing your mayors, your governors, your secretary of state, things that are just as important that are your vote as you progress higher up. And so there's workshops like Know Your Rights workshops and how to register to vote. And there's resources for multilingual ballots where people who are maybe like not very proficient English speakers or English as a second language, they can still vote and they still have access to those ballots through mandated. These are like required now. They're saying if at least 5% of the population within the state speaks a language other than English, then you are legally required to have these ballots in another language
Mhm.
and have interpreters on site with those languages that have a high population in your state and have a hotline on the phone so they can ask these questions. Because if it's in English, if the whole process is in English, then as a non-English speaker, it's very daunting. It's very scary, and you don't feel welcome into the space. You don't feel like you can ask questions because they're not going to understand you. And maybe you do speak English, but you would feel more comfortable in another language. I think it's important to have those options just so you can understand it in the language that you feel most comfortable in.
Mhm.
Yeah. So those are
Okay,
my
okay.
3 main points on that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And what other so you have your thesis and then your points, and then what other parts do you have, or is that it for the capstone?
Um, so there's a thesis and the hypothesis is I think I'm going to find this because,
Mhm.
and then there's the data collection, which was kind of difficult for a social. Mine was like I said, it's very social. It's not like Senate Bill 1011, It was
Mhm.
very like, how are people reacting? And I think one of the problems I had with data gathering and analysis was like I found a gold mine in the Princeton University study because it was very specific to like anti-ICE, anti-Trump, pro-immigrant rights protests. But
Mhm.
aside from that, there's not a lot of record keeping that are
Mhm.
like these protests were related to this. And then there's some protests that become that, it's like women's rights marches that are also like women who are immigrants, and then it becomes a pro immigrant rights protest, but it doesn't get logged as one.
Mhm.
But so for data collection, I was looking into the changes in protests and like how much it's gone up.
Mhm.
I think it was very difficult obviously to know what kind of people there are there. More often than not, it's not really the minorities that are being, looked for. It's not undocumented people that are going to these protests just because they really should not be putting themselves out there.
Mhm.
God forbid something happens and they call the police and they start detaining people, just like they they start arresting people in general, and then you happen to be undocumented, and then that process just snowballs into something that you could have avoided.
Mhm.
Like, I understand that you wanna support, but it's just safety-wise, you
Mhm.
need to think about your safety and your family and just your safety. It's really important to focus on that, but I was focusing on the protests. Grassroots,
Yeah.
trying to find, I think the difficulty with that one was understanding which organizations were deemed Latino forward
Mhm.
and which ones had those task forces, or because sometimes organizations get more money if they identify as a certain category. Like some organizations get money if they say, oh, we're also like food assistance. So then the government gives them money for food assistance and they barely dive into that.
Mhm.
So like legal aid, they're like, oh, we also do legal aid. And so they get to stamp it on their organization, even though they might not do it very well. So I think it was important to find that distinction of they're a grassroots organization that focuses on Latinos, but to what extent? Are they a task force
Mhm.
for ICE watches, or are they legal aid in case one of their family members gets deported? Or is it resources like ESL classes, GED classes? There's a lot of different ways to support undocumented people, but how are these organizations classifying themselves? I
Mhm.
think is an important distinction. And for voter mobilization, it's a matter of just seeing the voter trends and how they've changed and what can be attributed to it. I think the Latino vote has just been increasing over time as population increases, but you can see certain, I wouldn't say spikes, I'd say like just more and more people
Mhm.
are waking up and mobilizing and realizing that if I want to be represented, I need to speak up, I need to vote, I need to make myself heard because nobody's going to do it for me. And whoever does do it for me is not doing it right.
Mhm.
There's always this thing of like, we need white people to be in office to represent Latinos. I've always had a problem with that because I don't feel comfortable with somebody speaking on my experiences. And
Mhm.
even within the Latino diaspora, it's still so diverse that your experience and what you want in the political sphere is so different from what I want. So to have a white person who has not had those experiences speak for us feels really disheartening. It feels
Mhm.
like this is what we have to compromise. It feels like a compromise. It feels like we know that we're not welcome in that sphere, so we need to have somebody speak for us. I
Mhm.
think we need to accept those people and be thankful that we have those people. I'm not discouraging people who speak for us. I just want to remind them that they're not us,
Mhm.
you know, and to keep fighting for having Latinos in whatever aspect that means in office,
Mhm.
you know, not have people speak for us, but speak for ourselves.
Mhm. What would you say, like, some people don't vote? And I was actually looking at this in my poli sci class. Well, there's a lot of points. Let me try to get one at a time. One of the points that we saw, I don't know what year it was in exactly, but there was like a state and the population in, like, let's say Pierce.
Mhm,
I forgot like the actual districts. This is not actually from that specific place.
mhm,
But like let's say Pierce, like the Latino population grew, right? And then in like Bellevue, it stayed the same. Like there's not a lot of Latino people that live there and it's like
mhm.
low, right? It's
Yeah.
mostly white people.
Mhm,
And so what happened was in the Pierce area, they like shut down voting places. So then people, Latino people and black people, because that was like the population that had grown the most in that area,
yeah.
didn't have the same opportunity to vote
Mhm.
versus white people. And they even opened up more stands actually
In the
where
white
in the
areas.
white
Yeah.
area.
Mhm,
Um and I've also heard like some people, and I've heard it a lot in like Latino communities, which is very unfortunate, but
mhm.
it's true. And I've heard it in my own like household and stuff, how they don't vote because they say that voting doesn't have an impact. What would you say to that?
I think it's one of my points in my capstone. There's a counter argument section. Like you have to have at least one counter argument. My counter argument is that a lot of Latinos and just minorities in general don't feel represented in this political system. And rightfully so, because this political system never had anybody other than white
White people.
landowning men
Mm-hmm.
in mind.
Mm-hmm.
This was written by those kinds of people for those kinds of people to benefit. The system was not made for us. So when we force ourselves in, and not force ourselves in a bad way, but demanding that representation, it makes sense that people feel like there's no point in voting because of strategies like that, because of gerrymandering. I don't There's some guy named Jerry came up with it,
Yeah.
right? But the mandering part comes from the fact that he drew a district that looked like a salamander, and
Yes.
it's the most obscure shapes ever because there are some districts that are just like, here's a square, this is one district, here's
Yeah.
another square. And it's like, I don't care who lives there, I don't care what the population is, and sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. But the way gerrymandering works is like you put like for example, there's like a group of African Americans and there's a larger group of white people.
Mhm.
The way they would draw it is they would put that large majority of African Americans with an even larger majority of white people so that these Republican people, I should
Yes.
say,
So like the Republican Party has more like representation basically, and like
the
their
Republican
votes
Party,
overtake
yeah,
the
they cancel out because the district goes to is
yeah.
red or blue depending on who wins in that
Mhm.
state, whoever gets voted into it. That's how it works. It's like here's your city, there's your town, there's your city, there's your county, there's your district, there's your state, and then there's your country, right?
Mhm.
And each one, that's why elections are so important because you vote upwards, right?
Mhm.
The person that you vote for here is going to vote for the person there and there and there and there and there
Mhm.
up until the presidential election. That's why I've never believed in the electoral college, guys. Yeah.
I did learn about I was like looking at that like ain't no way.
Because they're
And
like huge up here and then
yeah.
super skinny. And
And
you're like, why does it get
it was
skinny?
not just that one. There's like multiple maps that show this, and
Mhm.
it'll be like you can see like the intentional like sliver right
Yeah, they're like
there.
huge
Yeah.
right here. And there's like, oh, but there's another one that I want to
And then
muffle
there's
over
like
here.
a
Like
little
skinny, skinny, skinny. It's like, why don't you just go like all the way
yeah.
out? Like, no, because there's a population over here that belongs to a different district. It was like, you couldn't split it up. No, because then that vote gets muffled. And I don't want that vote to get muffled.
Yeah.
It
It's
depends
basically
on
a way of like controlling politics, like the outcome of what party is going to
yeah,
win.
and it's so much larger because, like I said, you're voting for your next representative who votes for the next one and the next one. So it starts with your mayors, your governors that you vote into be able to vote for the district, who are able to vote for the state representatives, who are able to vote for the electoral college and into the presidency. It's all like a big system. So it starts
Domino effect.
as small as gerrymandering.
Mhm.
I understand why people
Say
feel
that.
like they're not being represented because ultimately we're not. It starts with average people like us who mobilize and who are like, it's up to you and I who are educated to educate people who are damn don't have access to that education or
Mhm.
simply choose not to be educated. I think people who simply don't have access to education is so different from people who are blatantly ignoring it.
Yeah.
And I think I've always agreed with this. People who are ignoring what's happening in the world are privileged. It is a
Yeah.
privilege to be able to
To
turn a
look
blind
away.
eye and be like, that's not impacting me. I don't care.
Yeah.
Everybody, just anybody who is not impacted is white.
Yeah.
And even then, it's like
And
low
you have a
income
lot of
people.
money.
It's rich,
Yes.
white, landowning. Like everybody is being targeted.
Mhm.
Like
I
undocumented
agree.
people, US citizens are being detained along with undocumented people. African Americans are being killed at the hands of police officers. Asians are still being mistreated for COVID. Not
Mhm.
for COVID, not blaming it on them, but
The
the
stereotype associated
stereotype.
with that, yeah.
Like, imagine seeing your president call people, like, saying this, the China virus, calling African Americans really hateful things and
What he
calling
did with the Obamas too.
what was that
And
with the
y'all
Obama
oh
guys?
my gosh,
Ugh,
y'all let him get away with that. Like there's
that's
just
a
so many
problem,
things
like,
that irks me about it. Like
I feel like our democracy has fallen asleep. We feel like
we look like a joke.
we are a joke. You should have you seen
US
how
politics has
other
become a joke
people
because of the
the
like
way other people are reporting on us, they're like, what else have they done now? Like they don't take us seriously.
No, they don't take
I don't take us
I feel
seriously.
like I feel like the president shouldn't have social media because the way he be acting on there, we look insane.
We
Like,
look crazy and then they base us off of our president and that makes sense because we elected him
yeah,
supposedly to be
our
our
representation.
representative in the global scale. And if they only turn to that and they see him like tweaking out on Truth Social. But yeah, I'm saying like democracy has fallen asleep and we need to reactivate ourselves. But then you're like, there's a theory called racial battle fatigue.
Hmm.
And it's just like you get tired, you know?
Yeah.
You are tired of having to wake up every day and be oppressed. And you
Hmm.
feel it. You feel it in direct ways and indirect ways in maybe being followed in a grocery store or microaggressions. And I think it's odd. I was going to say funny. I think it's odd that white people say that's not happening. Because there's
Yes.
no way you're negating my lived
I
experience.
mean, there's even like studies of like white people saying like, this was also in another book.
Yeah, I remember this one. Yeah.
Yeah, there it was like a study, and one of the questions I remember is like, do you think Black children face discrimination while they're in school.
And you ask white people, and what did they say?
They said no.
And you
They said
ask
no.
the people who are actually experiencing this discrimination, and what did they say?
They said that they do, because
Yeah.
they do. But also, I did think about, we can't expect white people to understand us when they will never face what we face. They don't know that struggle, nor will they ever. Like, yes, they can hear our stories, but at the end of the day, like, they're never gonna know what it's like to be brown. They're never
That's why I
nothing.
have a problem with these white representatives who are trying to appease to the Latinos or to the African Americans and be in office for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because that person is never going to understand my lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just, you're speaking for me. You're never going to speak fully for
Yeah.
me, you know?
Yeah, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was actually, I don't know if you saw, the some students went to Olympia to talk about the college bound scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
The college bound school, yeah, that they're taking it off, even though they had promised it. I received it too. They promised it to me when I was in elementary school.
Yeah.
And they said if you stay in a 2.5 GPA standing and you um aren't like a felon or something and you stay in Washington State, you can get money. And that was an incentive for a lot of us. I know a lot of my friends.
I'm on it.
Yeah, a lot of us were going because those scholarships made it achievable. It made it possible for us to get this far.
Yeah.
And to have that be reduced next year, like right before we graduate, is really like, I don't even want to see the bill. Like, I don't want to know how much
It's
is.
disheartening.
Yeah.
But what's it called? Those students that went, some of them were Hispanic.
Mm-hmm.
And I applaud you guys, because you guys were talking for all of us. Like,
Yeah, that's what I want to see. That
yes.
representation is
Mm-hmm.
like talking about each other. I feel more recognized when it's somebody who is like me.
Yes.
And I'm being broad if I'm
Mhm.
like as a woman or as a Latino or as a US
First
citizen,
gen.
first generation, like I see myself in my representative. I feel more compelled to support them and to stay up to date with them and to express my support to them.
I feel like there's definitely a lot to say when it comes to all this stuff. And honestly, we could sit here and like keep talking
For
about,
like the next 20 years
yes.
and we still won't get to a general consensus or a
Yeah.
solution to this.
Yeah.
I mean, as revolutionary as it makes me sound, like we need to just trash this entire system and work our way back up
Yeah.
because it was made by white people for white people and we're never going to fit in. And
The US specifically has a lot of history of oppression and like putting all these minority groups through so many things. But regardless of all those things, I think it's important to remember that we've already made it this far and people have been able to succeed regardless of the barriers that have been placed in front of us. And I think our joy and resilience is something that we should really take with us, especially in times like this, especially under this administration. I think it's important for us to remember those things. And you guys are seen, you guys are heard, and
yeah,
we're still gonna keep going regardless.
I'm
We're
not
still
gonna
gonna
stop,
keep
you
exceeding.
know. Yeah.
And Frida here is an extraordinary person. You're so she's so smart, guys. She really is.
Thank
She's
you.
so smart, and thank you so much for coming on here and
Yeah, of course.
educating me.
Yeah,
And I
thank you for
hope
having
that,
me.
yes, of course, I hope you guys get inspired by Frida, because she really is amazing. I mean, she's a triple major. Y'all saw my face. Like, not too much.
Not too much, I'm
Nah,
out.
but for real,
Yeah.
for real. And yeah, what is a piece of advice you want somebody to take away from all this?
Broadly to anybody who is in any position, whether you feel powerless or very powerful, don't give up. Doesn't matter what demographics you fit into. If you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, if you're old, young, man or woman or anything, keep fighting. You know, there's power in numbers, there's power in people, and our democracy, even though it wasn't built for minorities, it still was meant to be representative of the people. Remember that they don't have power over us. We legitimize the government through obeying them. There is power in disobedience. Like that book says, like learning disobedience. We need to learn how to question things. You know, we can't just roll over and let the government keep taking money from us and doing whatever they want to us. We need to resist. So I'm telling you, get up, resist, educate yourself. Don't be ignorant. Don't ignore, don't turn off the TV, don't let them pull the wool over your eyes, and lock in, chat. Focus and make sure your voice is being heard. Don't let other people speak for you. Make sure you are speaking for you and for people who cannot speak for themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, very well said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frida, and thank you guys for watching. And I know y'all enjoyed this episode.
I did.
I was gonna say I hope y'all know y'all did
I know you
enjoy.
did.
Anyways, thank you guys for listening, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.